I'm very pleased that this event is even happening. I'm very grateful to Her Excellency, the Minister of Happiness, for creating such an event, which is groundbreaking worldwide. Because what it really means is that we're looking at what is important in our life. Besides creating a machine, an economic machine, what matters at the end of the day when we go home to our family, and it's happiness, isn't it? Happiness is such an important subject, but unfortunately we haven't really talked about what it is. And that's one of the things I want to start with this morning. Because if I ask you or you, what is happiness, you'll have different answers. Each one of us will answer differently. But you know what's fascinating is I think that if I were to ask anyone outside what is happiness, they would have a delay in responding. And this is very interesting, because if I ask you, what is your favorite sports team? You would have no delay. What's your favorite food, etc.? No delay. But what makes you happy? At the deepest level, what makes you happy? Then we think, no one's asked me that recently. In fact, sometimes no one has ever asked this in our entire life. At the deepest level, what makes us happy? I was at a gathering after an event like this, and it was in America, and there was a man who was looking very frustrated because most of the people were women, because women tend to be more interested in important things like happiness. And men is just, do we win? Do we win anything? No, then I'm not going, So this man saw me and he saw, well, he's tall, he has broad shoulders, maybe I can talk football with him. So he came straight at me and he started talking about his favorite football team. I believe it was the Dallas Cowboys. And I didn't want to talk about football. I'm not interested. But I was polite and I listened 20 minutes. And this man had encyclopedic knowledge about his favorite football team. Encyclopedic knowledge. So toward the end, I said, can I ask you a question on a different subject? He said, okay. I said, at the deepest level, what makes you happy other than the Dallas Cowboys? And he went, well, and he became like a 12-year-old child. He couldn't answer the question. Now, this is astonishing because what are the four main desires of the human being? To live, to be happy, to have knowledge, and to love. And everything else we do is to get these things. But we don't talk about happiness. We talk about success and we talk about pleasure, but we don't really talk about happiness so much. So my challenge to you today is to define, by the end of the day, to define what makes you happy at the deepest level. Is it pleasure? Is it power? Is it fame? What is it? You know what I think it is? I think it's a meaningful life. A meaningful life. In fact, people will give up pleasure for meaning. For example, people who will work in charities might buy their own plane ticket, fly across the world to help people, paying their own money to do this, eating bad food and not sleeping well, because it gives them meaning, particularly when their project has to do with helping or connecting with other people. So when we achieve meaning, I think we achieve our deepest level of happiness. And other things give us meaning as well, of course. Deep love, our spiritual practice, our religion, our marriage, our love for our children. These things are what give us meaning and are significantly more important to us, ultimately, than football and other things. And you might also notice that as you age, what makes you happy at the deepest level will change. For example, when I was 5 years old, it was very important to me to be a pirate. Now it's slightly less important. So you'll notice every 5 or 10 years, your definition will change, and I think this is healthy. Now, One of the metrics that we can measure happiness with, which hasn't been discussed yet, I believe, is how many people are medicating themselves for emotions. In other words, how many people in our society do you think are medicating themselves for depression, for anxiety, for sleep dysfunction? These things. Because if someone goes to a physician and says, I have panic attacks, I don't know what to do, that person is not happy. Or if they say, I'm depressed all the time, I don't know what to do, that's not happy. So this is, to me, one of the metrics where we can actually measure if people are happy or not. Now, thank God we live in a time when we have these medications if you really need them. That's good. But I haven't met anybody who wants to live on medication the rest of their life. Have you? Who says, this is how I want to live permanently. And it's funny about anxiety and depression is sometimes we talk about it almost like we caught it on vacation. We were in a strange place and I caught anxiety. I came home with anxiety. It's not a communicable disease. If you look back in your life, you know why you have it. It's not a mystery. So in the United States, we have about 25 to 30% of people taking these medications. As I understand it, in the major industrial cities in the world, it's the same. It's the same here. In fact, I believe that statistics are slightly higher here. Now, what is happening at the same time is this information technology explosion, which we've been hearing about this weekend, which is astonishing. And biomedicine is exploding, neuroscience exploding, and this is going to bring many blessings with it. It's going to heal many people. For example, I understand that maybe in 20 years, if I have a heart attack, I can get a brand new heart made from my own cells. Have you heard this? This is astonishing. And they'll probably print it in a 3D printer. But here's the difference. If the pump is finished and they can print me a new heart, that's fantastic. But if my heart is broken, will biomedicine be able to fix this? You see the difference? No matter what we do with science, we are still emotional beings. I love my GPS. It gets me through the city, but it doesn't help navigate me through my life. Science serves us. We have to make sure it continues to serve us and we don't serve it, especially around the subject of happiness. We need to find what is most meaningful to us, or we will not be happy, no matter how many new apps they make for it. There are so many geniuses here at this summit, and I hear them talking, and they're all creating different apps for this to hack happiness. But one of the things that prevents us from being happy is that we are carrying with us unreconciled emotions. Unreconciled, unfinished, incomplete. You know what I mean. The average human being walking around is like a silo of contained emotions that we've been holding on to since we were children. Remember, I was mentioning anxiety, we know where it comes from. We hold in us our past. And we are taught, especially men, we are taught to suppress our emotions. We are taught only certain emotions are socially acceptable, such as anger. It's somewhat socially acceptable. Tears are not. We still live like it's the 1400s, where if a man shows tears, it's shameful. He's weak. I might fail. This goes back 1,000 years during a different time, a different place. It is dangerous to our health to not express our feelings. Because if we suppress, and when I say suppress, what am I talking about? I'm talking about someone passes away that you love. and you push it down. You go through a divorce and you push it down. You go bankrupt and you push it down. What do you think happens to all those feelings? The body remembers. They stay in our body. We know. The body knows. And there is an interesting emotion that starts to display itself when you suppress all of these feelings for so many years. You know what it's called? It's called anxiety. This is one of the chief causes of anxiety. The suppression, long-term, of anger, grief, and other emotions that we have pushed down. I see this every week in my workshops when I teach people breathwork. Breathwork is one of the things that we can do every day that once you learn is free, that helps us to not accumulate emotions. It's such an interesting subject, you know. Even when I speak in front of corporations, I'll stand in front of a group of CEOs even, and I'll bring up the subject of grief and everybody becomes very quiet. Because so many of us are living an unsustainable life. A completely unsustainable life. We want a sustainable planet, I agree, 100%. A sustainable environment, yes, please, I'm with you. What about a sustainable body? What about a sustainable home? So to me, these are the subjects that I work with people on. Because it's actually not that difficult, we just haven't been taught. Let me give you an example. If when you were a child, I'm talking to you now, if when you were a child or a teenager, were you given a handbook on how to deal with your emotions? Grief. What happens if your friend's mother dies? Were you taught any of this? Raise your hand if you were taught this. This is normal in about every group. 1 hand, 2 hands go up. They had extraordinary parents or went to an extraordinary school. The rest of us, we had no idea. No idea. In the house somewhere, you probably have a first aid book. You know, what you do if you cut yourself. But nobody has a little handbook on what do you do if your parent dies, if your pet dies, if your friend's child dies. Let me give you an example. I was giving a talk just recently, like this. And afterward, a couple came up to me, a man and woman, about 35 years old. And they said, "Thank you so much for talking about this. We lost our 1-year-old boy last year, our 1-year-old child, died in an accident. We had him in childcare in the day, and he died there." They said after he died, 50% of our friends stopped calling us. 50%. They said, not only did we now grieve our son, we grieved our friends. Astonishing, isn't it? Now you might think, well, they weren't really friends. I don't agree. I think they probably were good friends and loved very much, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to say, so they stayed away. So this creates what? A sense of isolation. Now, if you talk to therapists, counselors, what they'll tell you these days is the number one complaint is a sense of isolation. That's interesting, isn't it? Aren't we all connected now? Aren't we all connected? Why would we feel isolated? Because this is not connection. This is scratching the surface of connection. It's good. I used my cell phone this morning. I sent a text this morning for things like, what time is the car coming? Text message is great. But my mother died last night. This is not a good use of text message. So people are using text, social media more and more and they're feeling more and more isolated. More and more isolated. Isolation, one of the major causes of anxiety. Anxiety, remember, isolation and the suppression of emotions. And what you have is anxiety. It's a chronic problem. Now, I gave a talk like this a few weeks ago to a group of CEOs. And afterward, I was down to get a taxi, and one of them followed me out. And he said, "May I talk with you?" I said, "Certainly." And he did this. He didn't want anybody to hear the conversation. And he said, "I'm 58 years old and I have panic attacks. First time in my life. I've never had a panic attack. Now I get them every week, several times a week. I'll be in a board meeting and suddenly my neck gets stiff, my head starts to feel like it's going to split, and I want to run screaming out of the room, and I can't have this. I have to fix this. I can't run a company like this." You can relate, can't you? This would be a nightmare. So he said, "What do you suggest?" I said, "Well, I would ask you a question first." He said, "What?" I said, "How long has this been happening?" He said, 6 months. So what was my next question? What happened 6 months ago? It went right over his head. He didn't connect that what happened 6 months ago is the cause of his panic attacks. His brother died 6 months ago. So I said, "Were you very close to them?" He said, "Yes, we were very close." And I said, "You're a workaholic, aren't you?" He laughed. He said, "Yes." I said, "Let me guess, after the funeral, you went right back to work?" He said, "That's correct." I said, "Okay, you don't have a panic attack problem, you have a grief problem. You didn't grieve your brother. You pushed it down, and out it comes as anxiety, panic attacks." He said, "Well, what should I do?" I said, "Come to my workshop tomorrow, I'm teaching some breathing exercises." He said, "Breathing exercises?" You would have thought I said we were going to have hula hoop classes. You know, he just was absolutely astonished. Like, we're going to ride unicorns tomorrow, you know, because it was just new to him. He had never been introduced to these ideas before. So he came, I taught him. He wrote me 3 months later, no more panic attacks, finished. But he started to grieve his brother. The only way out of grief is through it, you know. The only way out is through it. And it should be bringing us closer together, not splintering us apart. If a friend stands beside you during the most difficult times of your life, that's a friend forever. That makes the friendship stronger, not weaker. And if you do this for a friend, if you go visit a friend in their worst time, and they try to push you away because they've been taught to, no, I'll be all right, you know. Just say, "Look, no, you're not. It's your turn now. Next year, maybe it'll be my turn." Because in case nobody told you, I'm here to tell you this. As you age, you lose more people, not fewer. Has anybody told you this? Nobody told me. As you age, you lose more people die, more people move away. So this is a subject that becomes more and more relevant as time goes on. So let's talk about breathing patterns for hula hooping for a moment. The first thing people think about is, well, I'm breathing now. Well, I'm standing here moving my arms around. Am I exercising? This isn't exercise, is it? It's just random movement. But if I create movement patterns, for example, if I take weights, I have weights in my arms, on my hands, and I start to do this, as you know, in the fitness gym. I do this 20 times, put them down, rest, do it again, do it again. My arms will change over 3-6 months. Agreed? We call this what? Resistance training. Well, similarly with the breath, you can do patterns of breathing and some resistance breathing, and this causes your nervous system to be affected right away, not someday. The exercises I teach make you feel better in 10 minutes, not someday. Now, there are two types of breathing. One we're doing now. It's called subconscious. You don't have to think about it. Just like you're not thinking about digesting your breakfast right now. You don't have to think about it, do you? But we can also control our breath, and that's what I'm talking about. Controlling your breath and learning to do breathing patterns, and it affects your nervous system. Now, if you don't know anything about the nervous system, please read a little bit on it, because this is really the subject that every human being needs to know about, and almost nobody knows anything about it. I bet most of you know something about the heart. Yeah. Maybe your stomach, maybe diabetes, you know a little bit. What about the nervous system? When you treat the nervous system, you're treating anxiety, depression, and sleep dysfunction. That's why we want to treat the nervous system. I'm going to take a breath. I want you to listen to it so you understand what I'm saying. Just listen. That was an inhale. That's resistance breathing. That's why it made that sound. And you all know how to do this because you have gone up at some point in the bathroom to the mirror and fogged the mirror and then wrote something on it when you were a child, perhaps. Or you've taken your glasses and you clean them. Yeah? That's that same sound. And when you make your exhales last longer than your inhales, what happens is your nervous system starts to relax immediately. Not someday, immediately. So the point is during the day, you can do 10 minutes of breath work when you feel like you're going into a stressful situation, which is all the time, or after a stressful situation. And also at night before you go to sleep so that you sleep better. There are different breathing patterns for different outcomes. They're not so difficult. I think every person in every office in the world should learn these. And if we did, this would be world-changing. Our nervous system would be our own, not a relic of the past. And then there are stronger breathing patterns that we can do that cleanse us of the past, so to speak, that heal us from the inside out. Yeah. We can do this, or we can take medications. These are the choices. Now, some of you say, well, I exercise. That's good. Thank God you exercise. But you also know people who exercise who have panic attacks. You also know people who exercise who have rage. You know people who exercise who can't sleep at night. So exercise alone is not enough. This is the new component, which is actually quite ancient. This is the new component to fitness going forward in our society so that we are happier human beings. Because it doesn't matter what you do to try to be happy if you are still dragging your past around with you, if you are still mourning something that happened 20 years ago. And if you don't know how to relax at will. Don't they teach breathing to women giving birth? Isn't this common? Yeah. Isn't it interesting when you think about it? So science has acknowledged that a woman giving birth, as they're going through pain, they're panicking, they need to focus, teach them some breathing exercises. This helps. And if you ask the woman, they say, oh, this helped quite a bit. Why doesn't everybody need this? Why only women giving birth? Why not every single human being in the world? So what I'd like to do now with you is to teach you a super simple breathing exercise that you can do tonight when you're in bed before you want to go to sleep. Since we have some room, what I suggest you do is stand up and spread out. Let's take advantage of the space we have spread out. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to use a hula hoop or anything. You need your arms to go out to the sides. So if someone's in your way, just shove them out of your way. That's good, very nice. Now take your feet into this position like so, and bend your knees, and turn your feet straight. Now take your hands here, not on the front of the ribs, the side ribs. Not the front ribs, the side ribs. Good. Not here. Here. You see how little we know about the body? When was the last time you thought about your side ribs, huh? Not the front ribs, the side ribs. Yeah? Now, I want you to breathe any way you want, but I want you to make your chest inflate and go out to the sides into your hands like this. Yes, just inhale, exhale a few times. Make your chest go out to the sides into your hands, and then contract. Expand, contract. So the lower ribs moving out and in. Now inhale again and hold your breath. Inhale and hold your breath. Hold your breath. Exhale. Good. Just to encourage you, the world record for holding the breath is 13 minutes. I ask you to hold your breath for 3 seconds. So you're going to be okay. Once more. Hands here. Inhale. Wide. Exhale. Bend your knees more, and inhale, open the arms. Palms up. Look at my arms. Palms up. Good. Breathe into your side ribs. Turn the arms. Palms up. Exhale. Deepest breath you've ever taken. Inhale. Hold. Two more times. Hold. Turn the palms up. One more time. Hold. Now, and relax your face. Oh, yes, that. Exhale. Good. Now sit down. That was to warm up. Notice how you feel, by the way. Yeah, okay. When you first start using your breath this way, you'll feel a little bit dizzy. This is normal. You know why? It's actually a good sign. It means your brain says, wow, look at all this oxygen. I don't even know what to do with it all. Give me a minute. I have to process it. But if you do it every day, you stop feeling dizzy within a couple of days. It's not a problem. So this is a good sign. It means you're breathing deeply. But now I want to show you the one for going to sleep at night, because I know many of you don't sleep well. So you're going to breathe to my count. This is a counted breath. So those of you taking notes, listen. You inhale to the count of 4. You hold your breath to the count of 7. And you exhale to the count of 8. 4, 7, 8. Simple. 4, 7, 8. The military uses this now. People who are the least likely in the world to do breathing exercises are now using breathing exercises for focus and relaxation. So, sit with your back off the seat. Put the hands down. Put the phone down. And I will count for you. You can have your eyes open or closed. It's up to you. But what you can breathe any way you want, because we don't have time for me to train you how to breathe just right. And remember, you're going to inhale to the count of 4, hold your breath for 7, exhale for 8. The speed will be this fast. So, quick exhale. Now inhale to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3. Full, hold your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push. 8. Inhale 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. Straight spine. 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Push it out. 8. Inhale 4. Deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Relax. Take a couple of deep breaths. The 4, 7, 8 breath triggers the relaxation response, will help you sleep at night. I suggest you do it under the covers, lights off, last thing, the very last thing. Try the 4, 7, 8 breath tonight and see if it helps you to fall asleep. That was one round. We did it 4 times. If you need to do it more rounds at night, do it until you're asleep. But you can also do this in your office. Like just, you're working, Red Bull, coffee, Red Bull, coffee, Red Bull, coffee, coffee. And you're typing like this, and you realize, I haven't inhaled in 10 minutes. You've all felt this. You go, stop. Do the 4, 7, 8 breath. Just stop. Turn your face away from the screen. Now, isn't it true that you have people who take cigarette breaks at work? This is common, isn't it? How many times an hour? Once? It depends. Well, let's say minimum once an hour, okay? So you have people in your office who get up and leave. They have permission, maybe unspoken permission. Unspoken. They go outside for how long? 6 or 7 minutes to destroy themselves with cigarettes. What's funny about smoking, though, is actually it's a breathing exercise. Long inhale. Hold. And now if you could just do it without the cigarette, you would have something. So what I suggest is, for those of you who don't smoke, is every time the smokers go outside, you go out too. The non-smoker should go out once an hour, go upwind so you don't get the smoke on you, and stand there and do some breathing exercises for 6 minutes, once an hour. You will have a different experience of life if you do these simple exercises.